Okay, thank you very much. And it's great to be back for this session called Catalyzing Cyber. So when we were in our opening session today, we looked at like the 5 key pillars that the GCF is looking at in 2023, and some of the companies here in Saudi Arabia which are supporting those different pillars. But what does that mean in practice? In this panel, we have specialists from government that actually run their cybersecurity authorities. And how they interact with, for example, the finance ministry, the economy ministry, the Ministry of Defense. We have the Saudi industry of military industries here, which is excellent to show an example of how that sector, the defense sector, takes this very seriously. We're going to have a robust debate for 40 minutes. Can we give them a nice round of applause for joining us today? I'm obviously not Nisha Pillai, who's a friend, but John Defteris, as they announced. So I don't know if they can change the board behind us, but I'm happy. And we know this community extremely well. If I may start with you, Engineer Walid, about how do you develop the system? And this is very important because you're very much, and everybody here on this panel, very much into processes about how you develop a cybersecurity apparatus. And in the conflicts that we see around the world today, most people think of security in the military sense of action, but this is a different, if you will, enemy, but also a different opportunity. Right. Do you want to explain how SAMI, as a military industry here in the kingdom, sees that development and why it's so crucial for the security, but also the development of the country? I think that would be great.
Sure,
please.
Sure. No, absolutely. Thank you, John. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله. أنا إذا تسمحوا لي بما أن هذا منتدى عالمي I will switch to English. هتكلم في الإنجليزية لأن ما شاء الله الحضور صراحة ممتاز جدا، نحصل أنه متنوع جدا ومن شتى أنحاء العالم. So I just took permission to speak in English because it's a truly global cybersecurity forum, and I think for all our benefits. First, I can't thank the organizer enough. I can't thank NCA enough for having us here, because if there's a topic that is at the highest level of importance, probably it is cybersecurity. If any company in the world, if any organization in the world think they are immune, they better think again. There's daily attacks on almost every strategic company, on every strategic asset. People who believe this may not happen to them, they better think again. So the presence of this really forum is amazing. It's great, and hopefully it will add great value, and I'm sure at the end of it there'll be certain recommendation other than the benefits of clear networking with subject matter experts. Look, at SAMI, we got to a point, of course we got to a point, I don't know how much you know about SAMI, but in just 20 seconds or 30 seconds, it's a national defense champion. It was established in 2018, 100% owned by public investment fund. Although we are owned by the government, we're 100% commercial mindset. We're in it for the business. Our mandate is to localize 50% of the defense spend in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. As such, it means we have to develop our own system, state-of-the-art technology, to ensure independence, that we create our own defense system in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, what we know for a fact, the concern is not only cyber attacks on the company for people to take sensitive information. That's extremely important to our customers. But the system we build have to be cyber protected. So in everything we do, cybersecurity is part of our day-to-day business. If we are designing a system, a defense system, we need to make sure that this is very resilient, extremely protected, that no one can penetrate it. And we try our best, of course, because, as I said, there is no such thing as 100% secure. From education perspective, of course, now we have about 4,000 employees. I can assure you our cybersecurity function plays a tremendous role in educating. Education is the #1 issue, because there are many people still believe that it will not happen to me, it will happen to other people who don't take care. No, it does happen. It's unbelievable how many phishing emails we get per day, how many people try to penetrate and get information. And that, I can assure you, is happening to all. So as such, we take this extremely seriously. We build very rigid, very strong defense system when it comes to cyber. And we can't thank NCA enough because they're doing tremendous work in putting clear regulations, clear policies for all of us to implement, and we ensure that we are fully aligned with the NCA in the kingdom.
Yeah, your clarity on this is very, very impressive. Before I call on His Excellency the engineer from Qatar, who speaks fluent English, but in deference to our audience, he's going to speak in Arabic. For our English speakers, or if you don't understand Arabic, do grab a translation device now. I'll therefore call on our friend from Malaysia, Dr. Megat. And I think we can start with how seriously Malaysia takes this initiative, because it's part of a national cybersecurity plan. And why, and I know Malaysia well, I've been there at least 15 times in the last 15 years, why it takes it so seriously as a financial center, as a trade hub, the development of the IT sector along the Silk Road and the Spice Route. I mean, Malaysia has quite deep ties in business. Why did you find it so strategic for Malaysia to have actually a 5-year plan?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for inviting me here today, especially after 2 months of holding this post. Before this, I was involved in digital transformation. I was not in cybersecurity. Just to answer to your question, John, I think we established our Malaysia cybersecurity strategy in 2020. It was a 5-year plan, which with 5 pillars. The first one is effective governance and management, which we established NACSA, National Cybersecurity Agency of Malaysia, which I am right now heading. Number 2 is legislative strengthening legislative and enforcement, of which that we will establish our cybersecurity bill next year in March, which we will table in the Parliament. Number 3 is all about innovation R&D. Number 4 is all about capability building, awareness, and also education. And number 4 is global collaboration. To respond to your Malaysia cybersecurity strategy, its vision is to establish a secured, trusted, and resilient cyberspace. It's just not that, it's actually supporting our Malaysia Digital Economy Blueprint, our IR 4.0 policy, as well as the other policies. One is our science, technology, engineering, and math policy, promoting students to go into these 4 fields, and some other strategies. So the reason that Malaysia cybersecurity strategy very important, we see it as very strategic because it supports the other strategies and policies that has been established even before. So, yeah.
Great. If I can bring in His Excellency from Qatar, and if you can drive home, it's very interesting, if I can use an analogy. Qatar was the little engine that could, right? It's grown so rapidly off of the strategic decision in 1992 to develop natural gas, and then to have that pervasive development in the state. Your view on the link between a robust cybersecurity system, if you will, and the ability to foster growth on the ground locally, but how that makes Qatar a global player in this idea that Saudi Arabia is building an international hub here. Qatar has been doing the same. Why is the cyber space component so vital, would you suggest, Engineer?
السلام عليكم. Thank you, John, for that. في البداية أول شيء أحب أشكر المنظمين حق المؤتمر على كل الجهود، وإحنا كلنا داعمين في دول مجلس التعاون حق المملكة العربية السعودية أنها تتقدم وتسير في هذا المجال وتكون الليدر في موضوع السايبر سيكيورتي. برجع حق سؤالك مستر جون. بالنسبة حق السايبر سيكيورتي من منظور عام، هو يعني الكل عارف أن السايبر سيكيورتي مكلف جدا أو مكلف جدا. الكل يقول أن تأمين الأنظمة وتأمين المواقع تكلف المبالغ الكبيرة، تؤدي إلى نقص في الميزانيات على بعض الوزارات أو حتى على الشركات الخاصة. من ناحية الليدرشيب لا، احنا نشوفها بطريقة ثانية، أن بطريقتين. الطريقة الأولى أن إذا أنت حطيت انفستمنت أو حطيت البجت المناسب حق السايبر سيكيورتي من البداية، هاي بيؤدي أنك أنت تحمي الممتلكات أو الأنظمة اللي عندك من الخطر الأكبر اللي هو الهجوم والخسائر المستمرة بعد الهجوم. والخسائر اللي بتؤدي إلى إرجاع النظام أو الأنظمة إلى العمل مرة ثانية، وهاي تكون خسائر أكبر بكثير من وضع ميزانية من البداية حق الأنظمة حق السايبر سيكيورتي. هاي من منظور. المنظور الثاني أن الدول اللي اتخذت قرار بوضع ميزانيات كبيرة في الأمن السيبراني استفادت على المدى القصير والمتوسط وحتى المدى الطويل في أنها أول شيء اجتذبت الحلول العالمية، وفرت البنية التحتية المناسبة حق المشاريع الجديدة وحق الأفكار الجديدة اللي بيتم تطبيقها مستقبلاً. طبعاً هذا أدى إلى جذب الشركات، لأن الشركات دائماً ما نشوف أول ما تدرس في أي موضوع جديد أو مشروع جديد هل البنية التحتية محمية بشكل كافي أن تحمي استثماراتها في هذا المشروع. فإحنا نشوف من هالمنظور أن وجود البجت العالية هذا مش شيء سيء، هذا شيء ممتاز من ناحيتين. من ناحية أن جذب الموارد الشركات الخارجية للعمل في الدول هذه، وفي نفس الوقت حماية الأسس نفسه اللي داخل الدولة من هجوم وتأثيرات أكبر في إرجاع الخدمات.
Good, thanks. I'm going to come back to you, Engineer, if I can, afterwards, after I ask our fourth guest, Mr. Barrios, Juarez, to address what's happening in Spain. But I'd love to get your thoughts, if I can, Engineer, after this question, so I can forewarn you. You had the World Cup, and I'm sure that must have been a challenge of a lifetime from a cyber standpoint. So the preparedness afterwards, if you can think about it, I'd love to get your thoughts on what was set up to make sure you could withstand a global event of that sort of scale. Felix, you're so respected in the business. It's great to have you with us today. I would like to discuss the role of R&D, and you could use the Spanish example or extend it out to the European example. You know, this is a cost. So what's the cost-benefit analysis of making the investment in R&D and how it feeds into the rest of the Spanish economy? And how did you structure the institute? Because I think it'd be wise here because the GCF has its own institute now, and I think that sort of information sharing could be very useful. Please.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to participate in this amazing new edition of the Global Cybersecurity Forum. Congratulations. First of all, in the European Union, we have, since 3 years ago, public policy called Next Generation Action that pretends how recovery of the economy can be boosted after the COVID pandemic. And in this time, we have learned that the main successful experience has been, in fact, to invest directly in research and development in digital transformation. In fact, in the case of Spain, 1 of each 3 euros invested through this program of Next Generation is allocated to this purpose of digital transformation. And in particular, it's very important to invest in research and development in the SMEs. Small and medium enterprises is the successful vector for this catalyzing of the market, because at this moment we depend to extend all the layers of provision of services and solutions in cybersecurity in a peripheral moment. In fact, we lack of enough small and medium enterprises to reach all the requirements that we are putting on the table around the European directives. So it's so important is that in 3 years in Spain, we have moved from 12% of our national economic growth to the 22% of the growth is depending on this purpose of digital transformation and in particular cybersecurity. It's very important. This year we have spent more than 224 million euros directly in research and development for SMEs, with more than 140 different projects. And the condition is you have to be led by a small and medium enterprise. And this is directly linked to something that Mrs. Abu Khaled mentioned before. He said independence of the country. We have to talk about national sovereignty in terms of technology, and cybersecurity allows this.
So interesting. I'm glad you brought it up. And I think I'd love to have this question for the entire panel, so I just want us to be very direct. That was brought up in our opening plenary session today. How do you get the balance right between international cooperation and protecting national sovereignty? And where does international cooperation really go deep enough to the challenge of today? You're introducing AI, generative AI, into a system when we don't know whether we have the thresholds of protection ready. Do you want to touch on that, Waleed, and where you think collaboration? You came from an international defense player,
Right.
so you know the role of international cooperation. You want to use that model?
No, absolutely. Look, I believe not long ago, I'm not sure about the statistics now, but I know for a fact Saudi, a couple of years ago, was one of the most targeted in country, maybe in attacks, cyber attacks. And maybe this is 10 years ago. I saw lots of statistics, and it was definitely one of the most targeted. I believe there's lots and lots of lessons learned. And I hope we can set up here in the kingdom a command and control, global or regional command and control centers, where there are various countries who are joined or part of this command and control, and they can all share threats. They can all share the attacks, the type of attacks. Because these days, the minute you identify an attack, and of course you put the prevention to it, there's another one in the way, and that's going to be continuous, non-stop. So if there is a regional stroke global command and control centers set here, with various countries included, and where we can share regulatory reforms, where we can share the type of threats that's coming, and I can assure you it varies. Some attacks here are common in other countries, but some are different. And really put some regulatory framework where how can we develop the talents of the future leaders when it comes to cyber? How can we share best practices and so on? I believe this will be a win-win to all and will definitely benefit. There is a direct relationship between safety and security and prosperity of any nations. Foreign investments always linked to safety and security of any nation. So if a country want to invest in another country, they look at the safety and security of that nation. Make no mistakes, the future is all about cyber, and this is the huge security, about protecting strategic assets, protecting investments, and so on. So I totally recommend and support having a regional hub, stroke global, where they can share best practices and learn from each other.
Good. Does it make a difference? And I think this is a great question for you, Dr. Magat. To have somewhere geographically that straddles east and west and north and south, and I'm thinking of Saudi Arabia. I'm very aware of the Islamic roots going down to Southeast Asia, so there's a commonality, right, on the spice route. Could you see the kingdom serve as a bridge between the US and China, where they compete fiercely on technology, where you can at least, as the engineer was suggesting here, have a commonality, is that we have to have the common good of protection and to share knowledge. Is that possible that could happen here in your view?
Well, I think global collaboration is always the fifth pillar of Malaysia's cybersecurity strategy. We have been communicating or collaborating with our cybersecurity entities around the world, the globe. In fact, Malaysia
you are already?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
that's great to hear.
We have been seen as the middle ground country. We have received threat intels from ASEAN, EU, the US, China, and however, although with the abundance of data information, we could only respond to that with the necessary capacity and capability. We have our command center in Malaysia. We share our intels with Singapore, Indonesia, and the rest of the part of the world. However, without capability and capacity of us receiving that information, we will not be able to translate that, whether that it's a real threat or not, for example. So coming to that, I think on Malaysia's point of view, we see that we need to invest a lot on capacity building. In fact, for a statistic, for example, we aim to have about 25,000 or 30,000 of cybersecurity knowledge personnel in Malaysia, but we only have about less than 15,000. So to do that, we have to do certain initiative of promoting people or students coming into Malaysia. In Malaysia, choosing cybersecurity as their choice, a career choice, and as well your education choice. That relates to our, again, science, technology, engineering, and math, promoting students from primary school, secondary school to choose cybersecurity as their field, then going to the industry, and then we'll be able to have enough knowledge personnel to then translate, to receive that intels and information from which we receive around the globe, so that that intels can be translated into a real decision. So, although global collaboration has been somehow successful in Malaysia, we have not get much from that value because we do not have enough talents to use that advantage.
Good. Very quick follow-up for you then. What's the relationship between the government, the private sector, and the universities? Because I've always seen successful PPP models where you have industry saying, I'm lacking that expertise, we need to put this in the curriculum. What are you doing on that front in Malaysia?
It's good that we see that everything that we do right now, especially in digital transformation, anything related to new policies or new direction, collaboration with the industries and academic institution has always been part of the strategy. So, in fact, when we draft our cybersecurity bill, number one is always about getting inputs from the industries, getting feedbacks from the academician to give inputs, so that our cybersecurity bill does not just look into the aspect of governing, penalizing, setting standards, setting direction which government thought we could behave and govern the industries and the stakeholders. So it is very important. In fact, collaborating with the industry, when we draft the Malaysian qualification agencies, when it drafted the requirement of approving certain program in the universities, they must prove, the universities has to prove that there are inputs from the industries.
Interesting.
So without that program will not be approved.
Okay, for those who need the translation devices, I'm going to call on Engineer Al-Maliki here. And the role of international cooperation, can you answer whether it's real? Now, we heard two regional examples, the collaboration between Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, for example, the GCC collaboration, even extending, I would imagine, to the Middle East, North Africa. Dr. Margat talked about the collaboration in Southeast Asia and the ASEAN countries. Do we have a model that works in Qatar? And you see the international cooperation, and if you want to answer this question about the World Cup, what sort of cooperation were you getting internationally on such a major event, if you can?
بشكل عام الجريمه السيبرانيه او الامن السيبراني هو شيء عابر للحدود، فاحنا عمرنا ما نتكلم عن امن سيبراني في دوله واحده. الامن السيبراني لازم اذا ما قدرنا نفعله على مستوى المنطقه او على مستوى دول العالم. طبعا ما زال هناك العديد من التحديات في ضوء عدم وجود قوانين دوليه تحدد الجرائم السيبرانية والعقوبة الخاصة فيها. فهذه طبعا يمكن أحد المشاكل الكبيرة اللي تواجهنا احنا كدول في حل هذه مشكلة الجرائم السيبرانية العابرة للحدود. احنا على مستوى مجلس التعاون الحمد لله في اجتماعات متواصلة، وصلت على مستوى وزاري أن واضح أن القيادات مهتمين في الموضوع ويحاولون يحطون حلول خاصة بالمنطقة، وهذه الحلول احنا نتمنى في المستقبل انها توصل الى العالمية. نرجع حق موضوع تنظيم كأس العالم. طبعا يمكن انا بس ارجع حق جملة قالها معالي وزير التربية والتعليم قبل شوي، ان احنا لازم ما نخاف، يعني we shouldn't start with fear، يعني دائما احنا نبدا ان في مشكله ونحط لها حلول، ما نبدا في احنا خايفين من اللي بيصير. في دولة قطر احنا طبعا اشتغلنا تقريبا قبل 10 سنوات تنظيميا حق كأس العالم في جميع المجالات، في الانفراستراكشر، في المواصلات، ومنها مجال الامن السيبراني من البدايه كان ماخوذ جديا. ويمكن اليوم يمكن سمعنا خبر مبشر ان المملكه العربيه السعوديه بتستضيف ان شاء الله، ونتمنى لهم بالتوفيق في استضافه اعتقد الدوره في 34 اعتقد. نتمنى لهم ان شاء الله كل خير، وبنكون احنا طبعا داعمين لكل اي دوله خليجيه بتقوم بالتنظيم ان شاء الله. نرجع حق الكاس العالم، احنا بدينا في موضوع وضع خطه شامله لرؤيه ما هي مشاكل الامن السيبراني على مستوى دوله قطر. فهذه الرؤيه كانت طلع عنها شيء يسمونه الاطار الوطني، الفريم ورك، اللي تم تطبيقه على جميع المؤسسات والهيئات والوزارات وحتى بعض الجهات الخاصه او الشركات الخاصه اللي لها تعامل مباشر مع الجفرمنت. وبدينا التطبيق فعلا، لكن مش موضوع بس وضع اطار عمل او اطار الامن السيبراني الوطني، لا، حطينا الاطار وبدينا نتابعه بشكل يومي، يعني في متابعه مباشره مع كل الجهات هل هي تقوم بالتنفيذ او لا. الين اقتربنا من موعد الدوره نفسها او كاس العالم. في الفتره هذه بدينا اتصالاتنا مع الدول الصديقه، كان عندنا كثير من الدول الصديقه اللي حبت ان تشارك معنا في الايفنت، واحنا كنا نشارك معاهم، شاركنا المشاكل وشاركنا معاهم شو التحديات اللي عندنا، والحمد لله قدرنا نوفر فرق عمل من بعض الدول كانت متواجده في الدوحه اثناء كاس العالم، كانت تقدم لنا السبورت باكثر من طريقه، خصوصا في حاله الهجمات اللي تجي من الدول اللي هي نفسها، كانوا دائما يتم التحليل واعطانا البيانات. في بعض الدول شاركتنا ببيانات مباشره كانت على طول، واللي الشيء الجيد ان احنا ما زلنا في هذه العلاقه مع هذه الدول ونستلم منها بيانات ونقدم لها بيانات في الامن السيبراني.
Very interesting. I didn't realize the level of collaboration was so great. Felix Barrio Juarez, I think it would be great to talk to you about can we move this conversation to the next level, right? And what I mean by that is, can we harmonize standards where we have this collaboration that we talked about here in the region, Southeast Asia, the European Union, which you signaled out in your first answer. How do we get harmonization in the cyberspace where we're speaking the same language, we don't have redundant systems that we're putting in, the investment has a channel where you see it's going to be robust for 4 or 5 years in a very changing markets. How do we share those harmonization ideas, do you think, Felix?
Yeah, maybe is the main challenge we are facing at this moment in terms of reshaping of this global market that is the cybersecurity and the digital market in a broadly perspective. Because standards maybe can become a kind of a barrier for the entrance, not only for foreigner vendors and providers, is a threat in terms of we are setting some kind of barrier for small and medium enterprises. And this is the question. In the European Union, we are boosting all the moment through the standardization process in order to establish a strong lay of requirements. This morning, President Barroso explained it very well, and how this has a purpose to accelerate the digital change. But on the other hand, we should think on the third countries. This is very real, not only for North and South countries, but also inside the European Union, because it's very different, the market in the Eastern countries and the Western countries. And we have to work in a level where standards allow new entrants of this new generation of SMEs. In the past debates around the NIS2 directive, the European Union Act for Cybersecurity, past November, it was expected that we will need more than 150,000 new SMEs in Europe in order to have the capability to provide this kind of new services in cybersecurity with these new requirements of standardization.
Very interesting.
And the problem is, what happens if we set some kind of a standard that is a barrier for these new very small company that is based, for example, in a small town, and you depend only about the foreigner providers and big companies, big firms. So we have to work in these two different layers in order to combine.
What a great point. If I can share this idea, and Dr. Magad, I see you want to interject. How do we make sure this is inclusive? Because, you know, Assami's a beast, right? It's running the military sector, and you actually made an acquisition of a cybersecurity company, which you can bring up. Dr. Magad, you know, you have this disparity of wealth, and you don't want the SMEs create the most jobs, but you don't want them vulnerable. Do you want to pick it up?
I think I would like to comment on the aspect of standards itself.
Sure.
I think although standards may actually improve efficiency when it comes to communicating and information sharing. However, I would like to relate to, I'm from the engineering, before this I was in construction industry. Standards is always our reason of not moving or change to a different, or in other words, innovating. Because in construction industry, standards is all about safety, health, and quality. And when you want to move away from the standards, no, we cannot do that because we are compromising these three aspects. This similar, I think, if we, however, the bad part of it is that it actually demote innovation. Similarly, I feel that if we are too much focused on standards, although they're positive, the advantage of that in terms of communication and efficiency, however, it may deter or demote innovation.
So you wanted to keep the innovation engine moving, is what you're suggesting.
Number two is that when you are, the standards established, and we are actually exposing ourselves that the threats knows what the standards are, and we're actually exposing ourselves for more threats. And they know that we are not innovating, we are not improving ourselves, we're not transforming because we are too much focusing on standards.
On the standards. So there's a balance between the two, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
What a great debate. Engineer Waleed?
No, sure. Look, SMEs in any industry, not only cyber, play absolutely crucial parts in supporting the bigger organization and the bigger mandates of any industry. Part of my career when I was working in defense, once I was with one of the largest global defense company globally. And I was with the head of strategy, and he said, we're going to go acquire a company. So let's go together and just take a look to start our due diligence. And I genuinely thought we're going to go to a huge headquarter, a huge company, big factories. He ended up going to a home. And that home had a garage, and we went inside the garage to see an individual who built something that's very innovative. And
where was this?
That's in the US.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like a Bill Gates story all over
Sort
again,
of,
right?
genuinely. And that was a global defense company. So you can imagine, when it comes to cybersecurity industries, without support of strong small and medium enterprises, I think we can kill innovations. I can tell you, we are big corporations. Innovation, we try to implement as much innovation as possible, but exactly as Doctor said, sometimes you have certain standards, certain compliance issues, quality and process and policies that prevent quick innovation, quick thinking, and so on. So I believe we definitely have to develop SMEs, support them, and I think we should support them by regulations. And I hope we can implement a policy where you say, if we give a contract, one of our company, Advanced Electronic Company, it's Assami Advanced Electronics, that 10% of this contract should go in supporting SMEs, or 15%, whatever. I hope that we can build this in the regulatory systems where we really encourage SMEs. They are the engines for any economic community or economic strength. So I believe that's going to be extremely important.
Okay, I'm going to do the final question, and I want you all to chip in on this final question with no more than a minute each, because then I want to ask a question about trust at the very end, which I think is very important. It's like, how do you maintain consumer trust? If you get onto an app and you're trying to do a business transaction or e-commerce for a small business, you don't have trust in the system because of cybersecurity, we have a problem. So think about it, because that wasn't in our list of topics. But I think trust, we assume that the companies have our back, the government has our back, but the challenge is always changing. So would you say is your biggest priority, Felix, on your side today, if you're going to look, if we sit down for GCF in 2024, what's going to be the priority that you have accomplished this year?
despite we need more than ever from the private initiative in order to build this level of capabilities in cybersecurity, we have to put all the public service focused in the more vulnerable sectors, and the consumer is the main. So we built 3 years ago a hotline, 017 telephone number, that attends every citizen, every small and medium enterprise, every professional is suffering some kind of cyber attack or they are suspecting, they can reach us every day of the year. This is very important. We receive more than 2,000 calling demands per week. And this is the way to say to the people the message that everybody is enough protected by the public service.
Very interesting.
This is
It's
a
very
good
consumer
experience.
facing, I think. Engineer Al-Maliki, do you want to tackle? What's your key priority this year?
في البداية احنا لازم نفهم على اساس نعرف الاشياء المهمة، لازم نعرف الريسك او المخاطر، لازم ندرس المخاطر ونعرف وين المخاطر موجودة. طبعا المخاطر تعتمد من دولة لدولة، يعني هو المخاطر عند دولة معينة مو بنفسها نفس المخاطر للدولة الثانية. بالنسبة لإحنا في قطر احنا درسنا الموضوع، كان عندنا توجهين. التوجه الأول بناء القدرات building capabilities، وبالإضافة إلى إيجاد آلية لترخيص العاملين في مجال الأمن السيبراني على مستوى الشركة، على مستوى الأنظمة، وعلى مستوى حتى الموظفين العاملين أو الانجينيرز. هذه الجزء الأول. طبعا من بعد دراستنا هذه اكتشفنا أن أكبر المخاطر تواجهنا اليوم اللي هي السبلاي تشين، التسلسل، ما عرفته بالعربي. المهم اعتقد السيشن اللي قبلنا كان تكلموا عن ذا الموضوع بتفاصيله، لكن فعلا حصلنا ان عدم دراسه السبلاي تشين حق اي خدمه او منظومه عندنا تسبب لنا اكبر مشكله، وهاي طبعا صارت في العالم، لكن بالنسبه لنا اكتشفنا ان اصغر انتيتي في السبلاي تشين ممكن يسبب الى انهيار الخدمه كامله بشكل كامل.
Excellent. Thank you for the answer on that. The two of you are going to finish up, Dr. Magat and Engineer Walid. Quite extraordinary. 60% of attacks are on airport infrastructure, so we take for granted that our skies are secure. 66% of healthcare organizations hit by ransomware attacks. Critical, right? If a hospital goes down, the threat. 86% of global CEOs believe there will be a catastrophic event in their cyber operations. So this is a trust game, and it's a race. How do you approach it as your priority, Dr. Magat? And we'll finish with His Excellency Walid. Thanks.
Malaysia always feels that it's all about secure, trusted, and resilient cyberspace. My priorities right now is all about capacity and capability building. In fact, when we promote, Malaysia always promote digital transformation. When we establish trust, more people will come into the cyberspace. More machines, people will be coming in cyberspace.
It can be a positive, is what you're saying, right?
Positive, but then we have to create more resilient, more approach, more people to protect, to establish a peaceful and resilient cyberspace. So capacity building, capability building is a continuous effort. We cannot stop because, again, innovation, the generative AI, establish a totally different cyberspace environment, which we may not know what the solution today. So capacity, capability building, that's my priority.
Great. We're going to have a session this afternoon, just after 2 o'clock, on widening the lens. What's the role of media in the process of supporting government and the consumer? Because you have to educate people to know of the potential threat and the opportunity, as we've all talked about. Engineer Walid, you have the last word.
Thank you so much. Look, His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, have been consistent from the day of launching Vision 2030. The biggest wealth the kingdom have, it's its people, the youth, the human capital. It's all about developing talents. Specifically, I'm talking on the domain of cybersecurity, having the right talents. But we have issues. And I don't know how NCA can help us and help other companies in this. When I have a cybersecurity specialist, Saudi nationals, who probably 4 years of experience, they ask for a salary that's the same as mine, as a CEO of this company. we have.
That's true inflation. That's true inflation, right?
God bless them. I wish life can go back. I would have got into cybersecurity specialist. But genuinely developing the right talents and regulating the market. And I think we need a lot more. And really, when I discuss with my fellow CEOs from global companies, it's no exception. I mean, this issue is not only in the kingdom, it's issues globally. So that's something I hope we can put certain emphasis on. I totally agree with capacity and developing the right talent. But when you mention trust, as you know, is gained rather than. So NCA can put all the regulations, and we can comply 100%. But still, if I'm always penetrated and there's information lost, then there is an issue that we really need to look at it. The same applies for any applications. If I talk to my friend, and this happened recently, I was telling him I'm interested in buying a new car, Lucid, and all of a sudden all the advertisements appear about Lucid. Should I trust this application anymore that's listening to me? So it's really, in my view, trust is gained. We need the right regulatory framework. I genuinely hope, and I'm sure that this global cybersecurity forum will learn a lot from it. I think there are global mindsets in here, and I truly believe this has been extremely beneficial to all. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, knowledge is power, actually,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And this is one of these things where I think we have to bring the consumer along for the ride, because if they don't know what their role is in this, and you have to, as you said, earn their trust to make sure that the government, but the private sector and academia has their back in a big way. Can I thank you again for an excellent assembly of fantastically good minds, Governor, to tackle this from the cyber authorities, the institutes that we have here, the government standpoint, and having such an important sector such as the military. Can we give them a nice round of applause? Thank you very, very much. Terrifically done. Excellent.
Thank you.